And this particular matchup has a little bit more juice to it on LSU side because of Brian Kelly. And what I've loved about Brian Kelly in the buildup of this game and him taking the job in year one is that since he's taken the gig, he's kind of said that it's a little bit about it is kind of jumping into the SEC and going up against Saban and playing in this game. And for a guy like Kelly who has the resume he does in football, has the experiences that he's gone through in the 35 years that he's been coaching the sport, to still be amped up about an opportunity to play a program, an opponent, a peer in a game is it's got good vibes to it from the LSU side, at least from my point of view. I think that the way that Kelly has embraced this game, right, about where it's not the Super Bowl, it's not the biggest game on the schedule, or at least from how he's talking about it, but it's something that he's looked forward to. And it's something that he says publicly, this is why I came to LSU. This is one of the reasons why I came here, to play in the SEC, to play against Nick Saban, to play against Alabama in the regular season with so much on the line. And in year one of this matchup, there's an enormous amount on the line, which is kind of crazy to think about. I was just doing a hit on a podcast, and they were asking about Kelly and where he his progress is in year one, if you would give him a grade. And I think grade up to this point is a solid B+ because of everything that you wanted to see going into the year. You're seeing where you got development, you've got buy-in, you've got recruiting, you've got all the things that look like the future is secure, right? But in year one, you're a contender, or at least, as Kelly says, October is for pretenders and November is for contenders. And you'll find out on the first Saturday in November whether or not LSU is for real.
I like that. I've never heard that. Is that a thing?
Mm-hmm.
October is for pretenders, November is for contenders?
Yeah, in college football, that's where you kind of separate yourself,
I like
right?
it.
The real teams, there's a lot of teams that look good in October.
Like Ole Miss.
Ole Miss would be a great example, right? And to play the other side of it, think about what LSU looked like in September.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Where you were thinking this team is a pretender.
Yeah.
Right? There's no way they can work themselves into a contender. And now here they are on November 5th with
Top
a chance
10.
to
Top 10
play for the SEC West.
10. I give it a 10.
Top 10. And it's everywhere,
Don't tell Joe
like this
Clatt
matchup, because it's a top 10 matchup. I feel like it's all over the place.
Man, it's all about the TV
It's
ratings.
exciting.
Top 10 LSU Bama matchup. Everybody's gonna watch that.
That's
I bet the money,
LSU
I
was
bet the
15.
money
They'd
line
be like,
yesterday.
we can watch it, but LSU top 10 is like, all right. now
Yeah,
we
is
gotta
LSU
watch
back?
now you have to watch it.
That has to be the national narrative, right? Like, is
It
LSU
is.
back? Because they haven't watched every game as intently as we have. Like, oh, LSU's top 10. You go down the list, like, oh, they got smashed by Tennessee. But then I feel like everybody saw the Florida State game.
Yes.
Just after it came out, just because of standalone game on a Sunday, and then the way that it just ended was like a highlight worthy. And that's when you get the Brian Kelly narrative of the job, LSU, whatever, because the national media couldn't wait to do that. But when you go back and look at LSU and look at their record, you're like, huh, okay. Alabama is maybe a down year. They've lost to Tennessee. See the intrigue? Like, you can see it nationally with people that are going to want to tune in.
Well, yeah, it was Headline Sports Center this morning.
Yeah, especially after Tennessee, Georgia is 2:30, and you're probably going to still want to feel that high again.
I
So
bet
go
that money
watch
line,
Alabama, LSU. Yeah.
Tennessee and LSU.
Well, and
Haven't
this
bet
is-
since Mississippi State.
Did you parlay them or do them separately?
Separately.
We'll parlay them. We'll put them together.
And this is the game, really that a demographic of college football fans fell in love with the sport over. You know what I mean? This game for 8 years to a decade was the centerpiece of this weekend.
Scout's dream.
What's that?
A Scout's dream.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
a pro scouts absolute dream, man. They've probably been around this game for 2 weeks, like diving in and spending time with both programs and just leading up to it And then you'll have, I would venture to say this. I don't know this for sure, but I mean, I know that this has been, over the years, this has been routine where every NFL team is represented at this game from a scouting standpoint. I mean, just trying to get in and see this thing up close. We talked to Jim Nagy last week, who's the executive director of the Senior Bowl, and he was 18 years he spent as an NFL scout before he took that gig, and he worked for some of the great, programs in the NFL, some of the great franchises in the league, and he would emphasize how much they put on that LSU Bama game, just because of you knew you were getting top end talent, you knew you were getting high end competition, you knew you were getting good coaching, you knew you were getting dominant players. And when you look at the field this season, like we said, I mean, both teams have top 10 picks projected on both sides of the ball. Will Anderson and Bryce Young might go 1-2 in the draft. And then there's talk that Kayshawn could still play himself. I mean, right now he's 15th on the big board of Kuiper's big board. And B.J. Ojulari is skyrocketing up draft boards. So he could potentially be a top 10 pick. So as much as we're talking about this Alabama-LSU game not having as much, it still has it, but as much juice to the roster as it usually does, there's still, there's still pros all over the place. And not as much from Bama's side, because, Alabama, while they don't have that big game wide receiver, that big game breaking wide receiver, they still got pros all over the place on both sides of the ball, on lines of scrimmage, at key spots, right?